And please excuse us for being a few minutes late. We were tied up in another meeting and time just sort of got away from us, so my apologies. Thank you for joining us tonight. It is the October 12th, 2017 meeting of the East Fishkill Town Board. Now, this is a workshop meeting. Typically at a voting meeting, we'll have resolutions to vote on. A workshop meeting is really a meeting where the town board can, under state law, meet as a body to discuss matters of importance to the town of East Fishkill. That being said, would you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Couple items under supervisor's announcements for this evening. One thing I would like to note, Hopewell Service Corp., who owns and operates the water system out at Worley Homes. We finally received the option to purchase. We've come to an agreement. I signed the option to purchase yesterday, and the attorney will send it back to Hopewell Service Corp. So this is the first step of us taking over Worley Homes Water, and as we all know, we've discussed in the past, it's probably going to be about a 3-year project to fix the system. But this is the first step, and this is very important because really not a whole lot we can do if we don't own it. But now that we do own it, I think, Tom, if you want to talk a little bit, we talked about the process in the past, but now we've signed the option agreement to purchase it. If you just give us a timeline.
Sure. The option agreement will bind the owner to sell it to us at any time at our request within the next year. And we do that because the town now has to go under a process to form a water district, because only the residents within the service area of the water company are obliged to pay for it. So we have to form a special tax district. There's a process. The town engineer has to prepare a map plan and report for the town board's consideration. We have to hold a public hearing. Then if it's approved, there's a certain time period, 30 days, that has to elapse before it's effective. And then if there will be borrowing involved, which there will be, we have to adopt bonding resolutions. So all of that process is envisioned to take within that 12-month period so that we can sit down, take title to the system, and then start the improvements.
Yeah. Thank you. And there'll be at least 2 public hearings on the matter.
Yes.
As we go forward with the bonding and with the formation of the district.
Correct.
And I know we've had Scott, our town engineer, we've put together quite a few conceptual designs, but we'll have to formalize that now and have a regular map plan and report as we
And
call
right
it.
now, I believe we're leaning towards extending service from the hamlet to both Revere and Worley.
Yes, absolutely. And the irony about this is when we had talked about this back in, this is subject to come up back in 2012, it was always going to be, we're going to serve them off of Fishkill Plains water.
That was the original plan.
But actually, even though that never materialized, the better plan, being as we got delayed a bit, is actually to tie them into our well fields over here. And
Worked out well because the EPA is moving forward with their project.
Yeah.
If that hadn't happened, then it would be a different story.
then it'd be a different story.
Right.
And we are making the application for we have built a water tank over here in the rec field, so now we're making the application for the water mains from the
Tank has
wells.
been constructed. We've submitted our application to run transmission main as far as Fishkill Road, which is the first leg. And next week, we'll be submitting our application to connect the wells to our existing hamlet water system.
Yeah,
Right.
very good.
We still have to put treatment and boosters in. There's another phase, and then we still have to extend the line from the far side of Hopewell Glen. That's another piece that came together.
Yeah.
Hopewell Glen got developed.
They decided,
and they put
yeah.
their pieces of
Their
water
mains
line,
in,
which we
yeah.
had them upsize a few years ago in anticipation of this.
Yeah.
So all this is kind of coming together now so we can get the service out there.
And now that we have the option, we've signed the option agreement to purchase, it's really, we can move forward. So it's really, it's working out very well. So I'd
So
like to
this-
just mention that to people in Worley Homes, so I'm sure they're curious.
Scott, the water line is going to go down Route 82 toward Lake Walton Road?
No, we're going to go, one piece is going to go from the hamlet to Fishkill Road at the bottom of Governor's Boulevard. From there, it ties into the Hopewell Glen system, which will come out, I believe it's Vicky Lane
Vicky Lane, goes
then-
out Vicky and then down Louise across Lake, something
or
like,
Tina.
Tina.
Tina,
yeah.
I think, and then it goes to Lake Walton.
Yeah.
And then we can pick up Revere. and then we'll piggyback Revere's pipes to get to
Worley.
Okay, so you're going through the back
through the back,
now?
Yeah,
off the state road.
yeah. And what is very good about, we can use Hopewell Glen's water system, water mains.
Well, we'll use
Yeah,
their water mains.
it's a great thing.
And they're also tied into the county, so we'll have redundant source in case there's ever a problem.
Yeah, yeah. So for the people from Worley Homes that are wondering, signing the option agreement was a very big step, and it looks like things are coming together. I would like to talk, my second announcement tonight is about the EPA project. We have the Hopewell Precision Superfund site, which is located up above Clove Branch Road on Route 82. It's designated a Superfund site many years ago. Since I've been in office, I started attending meetings on remediation back in 2005. And we've come a long way. The EPA has agreed to work with us. We're providing the water over at our Cannon Wellfield over here. We've worked very hard on the design. Everything was approved. I think the Department of Health is on board.
Yes.
And we were supposed to, and I think I announced at the last board meeting, the EPA has the Army Corps. When you do a federal project, the EPA oversees it, but then when it gets to construction, you turn it over to the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps was supposed to start work in October. So I called up the project manager a couple days ago, and I said, Lorenzo, it's October. What's going on? And he didn't get back to me right away. He left a message, and I'm very unhappy with this, to be honest with you. The EPA has said that they had an issue with the bidding process, and it took them a lot longer than they thought. They finally awarded the bid, but it took them 4 months longer than they thought. So now, instead of breaking ground in October, which they had originally said, now we've been waiting for this since 2005, they're actually going to be breaking ground in spring of 2018. They're going to send us some kind of documents giving us the timeline. I'm very disappointed, a little disappointed because we worked our tails off to provide them everything they needed, and I would have been nice if they had given us a heads up. So I called. So they've assured me that it will be starting in 2018. But to myself, and I think probably the people in Ryan Drive in the Superfund area, it's a little disappointing, but I do think we're very close to getting this project started, and I think it's going to be like a 2 or 3 year project, much like Worley Homes. So I was a little disappointed, and I thought the EPA could have been a little more forthcoming with us about the holdup. So, but this was all coming together, so I did want to just announce that. And I don't know, I think that was about it. One thing before we open the work session, though, I just did want to, and I hate to do this, I have to make this announcement. I do not do Facebook. Years ago, I wrote a couple books. I got put out a Facebook page or two, tried to do. I'm just not built for Facebook. I don't go on Facebook. A lot of people do. And some individual posted somewhere on Facebook my picture and said it's either to write, "Why do you love me?" or "Why do you like me?" or some such thing. I don't know who put it up there, and I'm really pretty unhappy it's up there, but it's out there on Facebook. So I just want everybody to know, I don't do Facebook. This was done without my permission, without my authorization or knowledge. I don't know who posts these things, but it's out there. So I just wanted the public to know I had nothing to do with it, and I'm pretty embarrassed about it, because I would never ask a question, do you love me or do you like me? That's just not what I do here. So again, people on Facebook, people on social media put stuff out there, and they're not always who they seem to be. They impersonate, and sometimes it's not always truthful. So I just want to let everybody know I have nothing on Facebook asking you to tell me why you like me, and I never would. And that's all I have to say about that matter. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. That being said, it is now time to open the work session. Being as this is not a formal town board meeting, but a workshop, I am not going to ask for a motion to open the work session. I'm just going to say work session is open. The topic of discussion tonight is the town budget. Now, this is that time of year, last day of September, I have to submit my tentative budget to the town clerk. We have 5 days after that, then it is presented to the town board. It becomes the preliminary budget. The town board has received the copies of the budget. We had our meeting, I believe it was October 5th. And I just wanted to make sure the town board is aware, and I didn't know if they had any questions about it. And maybe for the folks out there too, you know, our controller, Mark Posniak, and I worked very hard on this budget. As we do every budget, some budgets are harder than others, but there's never an easy budget. A few years ago, it was very challenging. This year less so, but still it is challenging. But I do like, and I know we don't have it for the screen or anything, but our spending trends, and Mark, I'd like to thank you for putting the graph since 2011 to 2017 in the general and the highway budgets. The spending trends have stayed pretty much flat. And we worked very hard to keep our spending flat. For years, the pension costs have gone through the roof. They were $650,000 a year, I think, when I started here. I think what are the pension, 1.7 million now, Mark, I think? Something like that?
Yeah, been a little higher, but yeah.
Yes, somewhere around, then the health benefits. I mean, so while these things have gone through the roof, and pensions are mandated by New York State law, we have to pay them. You know, for every dollar that's increased, we found a dollar of savings in operations. And I'm very proud of our spending trends. We've done our best to contain costs, and I still provide services. And Mark has done his pie charts, how the money is spent and where your property taxes go. I'll pull that one up. Where your property taxes go, obviously, the big blue one is the school. I don't think I need to point that out to anybody, but that big blue one's the school, the town's the much smaller green one. So, I think we worked hard on the budget, and just a couple things I would point out on the budget. Last year, we actually went to the town residents and asked their thoughts on maybe exceeding the tax cap to provide a needed increase in our paving budget. Because what happens when Governor Cuomo initiated the tax cap, without addressing the other issues, the other costs that rise, you know, the first thing you cut, I hate to say it, is highway. You know, you do less paving, you buy less equipment. So over the years, the roads have been not kept up as well as they had been in the past, pre-tax cap, pre-recession, and the vehicles, we've been keeping them longer. But this year, I increased the paving budget by $100,000, and I increased the budget for equipment or vehicles in the highway department by $100,000. When we talked about doing an increase a couple years ago, or last year, the public was not in favor of breaking the tax cap, so we didn't go that route. But little by little, we're going to bring highway back up to where they need to be. And this year's is the same. We're not going to exceed the tax cap. We're within New York State allowed tax cap with, they give us a growth factor. So we're staying within the tax cap for another year. So that being said, does the town board have any questions? I'd just like to put it out there for the town board. I think one of the hardest things with the budget, besides the costs that we have no control over, is you still want to maintain services. We still have to plow the roads. We still have to fix the potholes. The police department is still maintained a full staff. We have had several people out. Unfortunately, we still have a couple out on disability or work-related injuries, and that's always tough because that's always a strain on the manpower. That's always a strain on the budget because then it runs up overtime. But our police department and our highway department have been very good about working within the confines of our budget, and very proud of that. So I'm proud of the fact that our spending trends have stayed flat, and that we can still provide the services that we do. So, but this is a time for the town board to review the budget.
Well, I've reviewed, it's a very tight budget, and thank you both. Mark, we discussed several times about, we had 5-year plans with police, highway departments, and we're still within that parameter of the percentage of the whole budget still?
Yeah,
A third?
roughly,
Right.
yes. Roughly, yes. We've been able to contracted, it had exceeded slightly, and now we're
Then
bringing
we
it
went back, okay,
That's right.
because I remember we were a few percentage points above.
Right.
And we were concerned, and we could really start going over.
Yep.
And we curtailed that last year.
That's right.
Right, okay. And we're still, from what I could gather, still within those,
That's right.
okay.
I have a couple of questions. The chart, all the way on the bottom where it says town hall license, permits, planning, zoning, is that revenue or is expenditures?
The chart is how town money is being spent, so this is appropriations or expenditures for,
Well, this is the operating of the departments,
Yeah.
correct?
it's
Like the clerk-
expenditures, not revenue,
Yeah.
is the question.
This is how this is the cost of the departments in the town.
This is
how
the
money
cost of-
spent.
Right, but it's not a net cost. We didn't
No.
back out the revenues that they earn.
So that means that all of this is expenditures in those departments?
It's expenditures in those categories. So we have it broken out into highway department, police department, culture and rec, which isn't necessarily one department, and town hall, again, which isn't necessarily one department. It's all the functions within, the cost of all the functions within town hall with no respect for revenues that those departments might bring in.
Right, but as far as license permits, what does that mean?
Town clerk.
Could be town clerk, it could be the building department, it could
But
be.
it's not revenue through the
yeah.
licensing coming in? Is it?
This particular
revenue,
chart has
no.
nothing to do with revenue at all.
So that's administration cost?
It's the cost of the department that does the licensing, does the permitting, does the planning and zoning.
Then elected officials, highway superintendent. Are we taking in town board, are we taking in consideration the fact that the highway superintendent was willing to return $56,000 to go to paving? Does anybody want to talk about that? And also, as far as the $10,000 in stipend that we're not giving him, can we put that toward highway?
Well, just to explain what's in here now, the $10,000 stipend was removed from the budget.
Right.
And the superintendent's salary as exists now is the current, less that $10,000 stipend with the COLA increase that all the other elected officials are receiving. The $10,000, it doesn't necessarily go anywhere. We're not tracking dollar for dollar where everything goes. It was removed and other expenses were changed, but if we want to add that $10,000 somewhere, we'd have to take it from somewhere else. It doesn't exist as a,
I understand.
Okay.
We make money appear and disappear. But
It's
my
not-
bottom line is, if
No,
we
no.
had those $1,000 last year.
It does not appear and
It's not-
disappear.
yeah.
It goes into the general fund where then it's distributed
Okay,
to
so
other
instead of going to the
places.
general fund, can we give it to paving?
Well, we gave paving another $100,000, so I would assume that part of that might have been that $10,000. Because when I asked the comptroller, I said, we have to put another $100,000 into paving. It just doesn't happen. Then we sharpen our pencils and say, okay, we're going to get the $100,000. It's going to come from this line, this line. So basically, that's very possible that that's where that part of that came from. Absolutely. That's how we do it.
How about the $56,000 in salary that he wanted to?
Well, the salary is the salary. The salary of the highway superintendent is the salary. I mean, if somebody wanted to give up their salary while they're taking it, that's fine. I don't think in the future that a highway superintendent can say, okay, the next highway superintendent should make less. And my thoughts to that is really, you're still running a $5 million department. You're still overseeing 206 miles of town road. I think that's the compensation for running that department.
I mean, it was the highway superintendent's suggestion to turn Betty $56,000, so.
If the highway superintendent wants to do that, that's fine. If next year the highway superintendent wants to do that, that would be fine, but that's a decision for the highway superintendent. If he wants to do it this year, that's fine. I don't think you can speak for the next one. And again, I think that's what the job pays. It's a very responsible job. It's a very big department.
Okay, so going to budget notes. There is $160,000 that we received, or we are going to receive, or whatever the case may be, for the participation in the county drug task force. Is that money going back to the police department budget or general fund?
General fund,
The police
if I
department,
may.
yeah, the police department sits within the general fund. So the police submitted a list of requests for their budget. They have staffing. We make adjustments. So the police were basically granted their entire budget request.
And again, the money has to come from somewhere. So you'd look at each budget line.
So that's going to general fund?
The police department is in the general fund, so, yes.
Just clarifying, that's all. And then, I guess, page 1 of the general fund. First line, A9801001. Now, we have actual over there, 6,915,362. Seems like there is an increase, if I may read this correctly, of about 500,000 from 2016. 3.1% increase.
From 2016 to,
Right.
till when,
Well,
2007?
I guess actual and proposed, is that,
It's 3.1%, correct?
It's 3.1% from 2017 to 2018.
okay,
Are you talking about 2016 to 2017?
correct.
Oh.
Well, 2016, Mark, we had 6,402,788.53 cents, right?
That's right.
So the proposed one is 6,915.
That's 2017.
This year.
That's already happened.
Okay, and 2018?
7,129,966.
Okay, so the jump between 2016 is how much? About 700,000?
Approximately.
Right. What is the pilot underneath what he says, A98?
Right, so some of this jump is, I'm going to say,
Well, that's
artificial, or the old IBM campus used to operate under a pilot agreement,
Right.
and we would receive approximately $900,000 in pilot revenues. When the property was sold to Global Foundries, the pilot
They
went
back on
away,
the assessment roll.
and we raised roughly that same amount of money, instead of being in a pilot, was raised in property taxes.
But it's a shift,
It's a shift,
because we
right.
got the same amount,
It's
basically.
not really
but
a new monies.
It didn't
It's-
come out of and the pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes. So we're like some corporations will pay, instead of paying a taxes, they'll have an agreement to pay a pilot in lieu of taxes, which IBM had since 1991. When Global bought the property, they didn't want to do a pilot anymore. When they didn't do the pilot, then the pilot line actually went to zero, but just shifted the money, because then it became a tax collection on the assessment rolls, which I believe was the same amount.
Virtually the same amount.
So then it's not at zero, that money still exists, correct?
It's a shift.
Yeah, the pilot went away, so pilot revenues no longer exist, and that same money is now being collected as property taxes.
Okay. And that's going to happen the same with the new property owners, I believe?
Well,
there
now
is
it's on the assessment
The pilot's
rolls.
gone, there is no pilot, so.
And then, I guess projections,
Which page?
page 4.
Just to be clear, that thing, the column titled projection level 1 is the tentative budget for 2018.
Okay. Okay, that's, so I see an increase over there over the years. The column prior, well,
Which line
the
are you?
projection we're talking about Oil Eat, A1620.
Right.
Seems like in 2016, the actual was 363.67. And we are allocating $2,000.
Yeah.
We foreseen anything that is going to happen?
No, basically what we do when we do a budget is we'll take a look at the actuals for the prior 3 years, and then we calculate how you say to yourself, okay, is oil going to go up? Do we think oil's going to go up? Then we have to kind of calculate that in. Sometimes, you know, so you'll see a little less than the previous years. Maybe sometimes you think maybe oil's going to go up, so maybe put a little bit more in. But what would happen then is the year goes on and you see that the oil prices don't go up to where you thought they would, and you had $2,000 budgeted like we have here. Come around maybe July, August of next year, we might be safely within our budget, and then you might say, you know what, we can use that money elsewhere, then we do a budget transfer. But for the meantime, it's just kind of there to cover just any unexpected changes in the pricing.
But the actuals, I think he's saying is $363. That's year-to-date, only up to
last year.
September.
Actually, that was in 2016. That's
16.
actual.
But a couple years before that, it was $1,900. So
Right. It's a tough one to call.
hopefully we don't spend that, but
Hopefully not.
It's-
And on the same page, central printing. What does that entail, Mark?
Central printing.
And mailing.
central printing is, yeah, largely the postage meter and any mailers we do, any sort of general printing that the town does, not department-specific
Is
necessarily.
there any way that we could reduce that? I mean, a lot of the stuff is done via email.
Well, that's like, we're going to send out a letter to all the residents in the town for the proposal for
For Hillside Lake.
Hillside
Yeah.
Lake, so that will come out of that
That
budget.
comes- that would-
Absolutely. And that's not a cheap mailing.
Potentially, that could be a Hillside Lake budget or a general budget, depends on
But it's
what
gonna be
the
a general
purpose is.
fund
In this
budget
case, it
come out
would
of
be
central, yeah.
central printing.
It's the tax bills, postage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of postage, tax bills,
again,
water
that's
and
an
sewer
advertisement.
bills, we send out 4
previous
times.
years.
And by law, we have to put out, we have the drainage water sewer districts, this public hearing coming up.
Lots of
in October-
postings in the newspaper
October.
that are required by law.
And then New York
and-
State says you have to send out the mailers, which are going to be going out probably 2 or 3 days. So, yeah, there's certain things we have to do.
And data processing, is that all the computers, maintenance?
It's basically everything related to technology. So the maintenance, if we purchase any new computers, if we buy software that isn't necessarily linked to a specific department. We have a couple of programs that are used by multiple departments, so it just gets put in this general line as opposed to a department-specific piece of software that'll get a charge to that department.
Is there, I mean, I know that sometimes each year, some companies, they want to do business with the town. Do we actually see if we could find somebody else to reduce that cost? Or is it something that,
We haven't. I think it's a comfort level with the current provider.
Yeah.
We
I mean,
don't,
they say that every 3 to 5 years, we should kind of review the providers to see if they're taking care of us or if we could reduce that cost, so.
Well, we've had very
Just making a
good-
suggestion.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, the last 2 years ago, we asked the person who does our computer servicing if he just hold his price flat, not ask for an increase, which he did. And then the other parts of that would be computer hardware, software, and there's an expense to that also.
we also
So
changed it
there
to a
was-
flat rate
Yeah,
rather than an hourly billing.
yeah.
We wanted to be able to control the costs that way, so we made a couple changes.
So page 6,
Yep.
control of animals. Now, the police department does can you, what is that line exactly?
Dog control.
Yeah, some of it is we pay the SPC.
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, we have contracted the SPCA. You know, you might say, gee, animal control, what's that? I got to tell you, back in 2007, when things got bad and people just started walking away from the houses, it's very unfortunate. They also walked away from their animals. We were swamped back then during the recession. People would just walk away from the, the animals, the house, they would just leave. And we were picking up a lot of animals at the time, so, although you say, oh, dog, so that has gone away, thank goodness, But, yeah, we have a dog warden, and if you have a problem with the dog running loose, lost dog, something like that, you give them a call. Yes, it's under the police department. I'm sure the police department isn't thrilled with it, but they're 24/7. They're an enforcement agency, but we contract with the SPCA to have the dog, then we bring it up there.
So do we have a dog warden or no?
Yeah, we do a
We have a
part-time,
part-time dog warden that gets called as needed.
as needed, yeah.
Okay. So part of that goes toward the salary or?
Yeah, they have their pay is one line, and then the other line is contractual expenses. So I think that's mostly the SPCA costs when they have to kennel a dog that we collect.
But the fees, when they keep the dogs over there, do they charge the client or do we pick up some of that?
I think they're charged when we can.
Every now and then, we'll get stuck with one, that'll happen, but basically, they have to
So
pay
what do they do? They
when
put the
pick it
dog
up.
or the pet to sleep? I mean, is that the expense that we pick up?
Oh,
Well, the kenneling, even if they pay for it, we still have an expense. Then you would see a revenue, under the revenue lines, showing a payment for.
All right.
So the cost exists whether or not we get reimbursed for it.
And on the same page, there is safety inspections over there.
Right.
It seems like a big item. What does that mean over there?
I'd summarize it as the building department, the staff, and,
Okay, that includes salaries?
yes.
Okay.
one thing I'd point out about the building department, last few years, they've been very good. The building department fees actually cover the expenses of the building department. They've been pretty close. That's been revenue neutral in the end.
Then going on to page 8, I think special recreation facility, A718, I believe, -1, personal services.
That's,
What is that?
that's the lifeguards. So that line is the Red Wing Park, and the bump is due to the minimum wage increase. So the starting lifeguards are basically at minimum wage. That's going to jump up by 70 cents an hour. And then everyone above that's going to get pushed up. We have first-year guards, second-year guards. So the 101, that's largely lifeguard salaries.
Some of that is recouped from the summer.
The fees, yeah, we collect in the neighborhood of 90,000, I mean, it's give or take, depends on the weather, but we collect about $90,000 to $100,000 worth of revenue, and the Red Wing Park itself costs us about $125,000.
Okay.
So it's mostly paying
So
for
we're
it,
pretty much even on that.
pretty much.
And then I got page 10, bottom of the page, A9015-8.
Yes, that's the police pension.
So it seems like, I know that John had mentioned that that goes up, but I thought in the last couple of years, the pensions percentage had decreased. How does that work?
Well, we were expecting it to decrease, and it didn't really decrease. A lot of the lines flattened out, but never went down. So there's two things that influence that number, the rate itself and then the police salaries. So that number is based on information provided to me directly by the pension department. That's their estimate of what the cost will be. And as I said, that increase is partially an increase in salary. So even if the contribution rate stays flat, if salaries go up 4%, then our contribution is going to go up 4%, even though
So that part is not just retirement pensions, it also includes salaries, benefits?
No, but the
upon.
calculation is based on salaries. So we pay a percentage, this number is a percentage of the police salaries.
Correct,
That percentage goes up and down,
right.
so that can influence the total cost, and salaries go up, and that influences the total cost.
Okay.
The rate itself is roughly flat. Salaries are going up, and that's where you see the increase.
So that 4.5 reflects the increase in salary.
And some of it is an increase in the pension contribution, and some of it is a salary increase, yes.
Okay. So it's a little confusing for me. Is it that the pension contribution have totally from the state decreased as far as the percentage?
Yeah, let me pull out.
But they increased because we have more personnel? Is that what happened?
It's not even necessarily more personnel, it's just the same personnel.
But there was an
With-
increase in the
with
New York
raises.
State Police Pension Fund. I think,
Right, so they give us estimates, they list out all the expected salaries, all the contribution rates, and they come up with a number. That's what the number is. So the contribution rates are complicated as well because it depends on the tiers that are involved, so, let me just. So just as an example, the Tier 5 plan in 2017, 18, because they have a fiscal year that's a little different than our calendar year, is going to go from 19.9% to 22.9%. So there's an increase there. But the Tier 2 rate is dropping from 24.6% to 24%. So again, it's not always there's just one answer. It's a combination of factors. When you add those combinations together, there's that 4% increase.
And I guess on the highway, page 1. I know that I asked this before to Mark. So we are going from roughly 500,000 to 600,000 for paving, right?
Yes. Or just to be clear, sometimes we add the paving and the drainage together. So you may have heard a 600 number, that 600 becomes 700. If you break the two apart, 500 plus 100, next year will be 600 plus 100.
So so we actually are giving the highway less this year in 2018 than we gave in 2016. Because in 2016, I see 690,530 plus 216 for drainage, that's over 900,000. Right? This year
Yeah,
we're
that
giving them-
that was back when we did that special deal where we wanted to pave more because we had the salt savings, so we decided to pave more, and then we're
I'm
going to
just
make up for
pointing
it.
it out, that's all.
Oh, sure, okay.
So that year, 2016, overall, we gave them roughly about 900. This year, combined, we're going to give them about 700.
That is correct.
Okay. And one last thing, page 2 on the same. I see there's snow removal in the middle of the page. I guess it's DA5142-41.
Okay?
Total snow removal. It's going up 44.9%.
Yes, because goes back to that whole salt
we had a
issue.
contract to buy that salt, you remember a couple years
Yeah,
ago?
yeah.
So we ended up with a ton of salt. And then,
We still have that salt available,
Yeah.
right?
Well, but it'll be, it's expected, we're going to need to buy a full load next year, is what I'll say. We no longer we're not going to end the year necessarily with that stocked barn that was going to
So
allow.
that 44% that you have allocated is for buying salt next year.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're increasing the salt and sand budget from 140,000 to 450,000. The 140 was artificially low because we had the prior year where we purchased a
Yeah.
ton and then didn't necessarily need it all.
Do we know if, as the situation of the price of the salt, because we said that we were going to be buying salt with either through the county or whatever, there's going to be a discount. Is the price of salt going down for us buying it? How is it working?
we buy from
any-
the state typically, state contract.
State bid, right?
Bill, is the salt going down? You have any news?
Am I allowed to talk?
Any answer?
Councilman asked you a question, if you'd like to, sure.
Yes, the salt did go down approximately $22 a ton.
From where?
From
From how much we used to buy before?
Correct. The 10,000 ton that was ordered through the previous highway superintendent compared to the order I put in for 2017-18 season is approximately $22 less per ton.
Is that figure more or less considered the reduction in price or not?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, the salt budget is a real crapshoot. So it's a number that's meant to, because the weather is such a variable. If you look back on prior years, you know, it's not uncommon to have spent 600,000 a year for salt. Sometimes we've spent less.
I'm
So,
gonna throw a bomb.
yep.
If in case we don't have a bad winter, can some of that 44% be moved to paving?
It's entirely up to the board. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay.
But our paving budget this year did increase 100,000.
That's correct.
And 200,000 more for new equipment for the highway department.
100,000.
I'm sorry, 100,000.
An
Correct.
increase of 100 roughly
Right.
to 200,000.
So,
So we're trying to get those numbers
Plus
back
chips.
to where we should.
Because of chips.
because of chips.
The filings for chips were substantial. We received an awful lot of money back from New York State, the CHIPS program,
Excellent.
the equipment and the asphalt.
That's great.
And that covered pretty much what is in the budget right now.
Yep. Well, it's figured in the budget. That's part of the revenues, New York State CHIPS. And I'm not sure what CHIPS stands for, but it's New York State Highway Reimbursement based on per mile of town road. So,
And the 15% increase in our medical, is going to be actual, or you're projecting 15%?
Well, it's somewhat of a projection. We did get some numbers today, looking a little less than the 15, so.
That's good.
Hopefully, it'll come under.
Right, okay.
And then again, as the year goes on, we can always shift from one budget, we'll do budget transfers. And as you say, we're still getting numbers now, so it's hard to do a budget, you know, you're trying to project out, so. Anyways, anybody else have any questions on the budget? And you don't have to ask, you can always stop and see the controller too anytime you want. He's
And then
always
the other thing we've also got is that reimbursement money that's hopefully coming back too, from the,
From the winter storm that we
Winter
had.
storm?
Yes, Stella.
on that.
Yeah.
so if we
Boy.
get that money back, we can
Well,
put some of that towards Blacktop or somewhere else too. But waiting for the government to send us our money back could be a long way.
every time the federal government- You see the federal government, see the new email today? I mean, you go up to see the federal government, I think we do a very good job of putting together, answering all their questions, and then they come up with more questions. And they say you did a great job, but answer that, or do it this way, so.
Well, they hope everybody stops answering because then they don't have to give you the money
I
anymore.
think that's true, too. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts on the budget? I don't mean, and again, you can always see the controller, because we're not going to be adopting the budget until early November, but the controller's always available if anybody has any questions. Anything generally, though? I think,
I think it's a good job.
as Chief Nichols
budget.
said when he retired, he said, "Supervisors, some cheap." I will agree with him. We try to make the most of every dollar, so I think it's been good budget. Okay, that's it for the budget discussion. Open discussion for tonight. I did want to just hit on a couple quick topics. The Hillside Lake had a meeting the other night. Hillside Lake residents had a meeting. I know Councilman Marinero, you're the liaison to the Hillside Lake community, so you want to give a little report on the meeting? I think it was held on October 10th.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank all the people that attended, the two councilmen, Tom Franco and Nick D'Alessandro, and the town engineer and the town lawyer for attending, and the highway superintendent was there, very helpful answering the questions. There was great attendance that night. It was a great meeting, great exchange of ideas and information. The community participated pretty well. The discussion was very informative at times, and good comments from the council. A lot of consideration taken into account. There were a lot of good questions, and I believe that for the most part, the questions were answered properly, and the community was very happy with the way the meeting went. No baseball bats, Peter,
No?
no,
Good,
but everything was very well.
good,
Good
good,
meeting.
good. And Councilman Delisandro and Franco, you attended, correct? Any thoughts on the meeting? How did you think?
Yes, I thought it went very well. Everybody had a chance to speak and voice their opinion. And I'd like if our town engineer could briefly go over some of the things that we had discussed about the concept. And it's just a concept for the lake, just to make that perfectly clear for everyone, and what we're looking at and what is going to be on that referendum in November.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to mention
Yeah,
that. Because the meeting, like they both said, the two councilmen, the meeting went excellent. And I think that possibly we should do a information session. Maybe some of the people from Hillside Lake would like to do it, where we can put it on Channel 22, and the rest of the public will know what they could possibly get if this proposal does get passed. So if people out there, the facts are that we're proposing to borrow up to $3 million. We don't have to spend that whole $3 million, but up to $3 million. And that potentially will be about $20 roughly per average household in our town per year. So people might be afraid with a tax increase or something like that, but so they know what they could possibly get for a $20 increase. And this is what we discussed at the meeting, and these are the facts. And the facts are that the possibility probably we could get, obviously that's one of the largest lakes accessible in East Fishkill. They're talking about possibility of having walking, jogging, biking, riding trails around the lake, possibly ice hockey or ice skating during the winter months, fishing, fly fishing, ice fishing, aquatic educational programs, canoeing, kayaking, picnicking, possibly a pavilion area, possibly tennis or basketball courts. Also, there's many environmental advantages here. We keep green areas. People who like less urban sprawl, this is a perfect project for environmentally savvy people. We discussed also about the DEC project, that this will also incorporate the DEC project where we will filter the stormwater. We have a great recreation in our town, and this is a possibility to get even more. And obviously, it's up to the voters and what they want to see the way the town go. But I just like to say that the forefathers on this town board thought about purchasing all the property that is our rec center now. And I'm thankful that they saw the vision to what it became today. Because if not, then what will we have? We won't have such a great recreational department that we do. So I like for people to keep that in mind and think about what you want for the future of the town. So in saying that, if Scott wants to add anything about what possibly we can add on to the, what the proposal will incorporate, you can.
Well, I think you pretty much covered it, Councilman. We spoke about a walking trail, pavilion, a dock to replace the one that was removed.
I did write a little letter
Right.
that we kind of all worked on. And back to that, when you talk about the recreation, the main recreation area over here, actually, I think was, I don't know, Peter, where's the fireman's field? Was that the other side of the walking path?
Fire pins.
It was right here. And that, you
By
remember,
New Lawns.
the town board paid, what, $600,000?
600,000 for everything across from the funeral home.
And you guys took a heck of
No,
a
that was
beating.
before me.
Oh, it was before you?
Lot
That
of
was
heat.
before me.
Was it 91 or something like
Right.
that?
About that.
Probably around
yeah.
Dom
Late 80s, early
Panizaro,
90s, yeah.
Something. But they took a heck of a beating on that. They said, how could you spend that much money? But to your point, we have the terrific recreation facility. The main facility is just wonderful.
Sure, those seniors, where
Yeah.
they meet now, they wouldn't have that.
Those people I
so.
walk
I just
with-
want to add, all of our recreation facilities are wonderful.
This is very true. This is very true. So what I did with some of our professionals, and we actually took some memos previously that we'd gotten from the Hillside Lake Board when we were talking about this a few years ago. So I put together a letter. Now, we said we're going to be doing a mailing.
Right.
Because what's going to happen on the November 7th ballot, there's going to be 4 propositions. And I'm not sure what, I know one of them's going to be about having a constitutional convention.
One. That's
Is that number 1?
Yes.
Okay. Another one about.
Number 2 is taking away pensions of dishonest
That's right.
officials.
Okay.
Number 3 has to do with the Adirondack State Park.
Adirondacks, yeah.
And number 4 is our local
It's
property.
Hillside Lake. So we've actually put number 4, the proposition on the ballot on November 7th will be a local proposition. So I wrote this, and on the front, it's going to be mailer. We're looking to put out a mailer about a week before the election. Important message regarding local proposition on November 7th. And then you open it up, and it'll say, on the November 7th ballot, there will be a proposition to make Hillside Lake a town public recreation facility. Presently, Hillside Lake is a 26-acre lake located in the northeast quadrant of our town and is limited to the use of the residents of Hillside Lake Park District. The proposal on the ballot is to abolish the Park District, improve the lake, and make the property recreation for all town residents. The amount budgeted for this project is up to $3 million to be funded by a 15-year bond, which would cost the owners of a house assessed at $300,000 approximately $21 per year. If approved, the lake will be cleaned up, reduced in size to 16 acres, and may provide, and that's where we kind of got into, what are the possibilities, and obviously going to be parking, recreation field, which as you say, maybe tennis or something like that, fishing, small /small boat dock, a gazebo, and a walking path for all town residents. The facility will be owned and operated by the town as the rest of our rec facilities, and this project will restore the natural beauty of Hillside Lake and provide access to all town residents. Trying to think of something that could be put on a mailer to go out before the election, before the proposition comes up. So what I'll do is I'll pass these out to the board before we leave tonight, and if anybody has any ideas what they'd like to see changed, but I'm going to need them back rather soon.
Right.
Because central processing is not cheap, and you do, a postcard is one thing, but a letter gets a little bit more, because actually we talked about maybe putting a picture on it too. So
Are we gonna put on the other side, should we also put the other
I'd rather.
resolutions
not-
that nobody in the state's gonna tell us about? That
Well, yeah,
are
no,
gonna
you know what,
cost
Peter?
billions of dollars?
You know what, that's a good idea, so maybe we'll put the propositions as they're gonna be seen on the ballot, that's a good idea.
You know, because nobody's gonna know about it.
Nobody's gonna
And
know
I'll
until
bet
they
you
walk
that-
in the door.
And you're not gonna be able to read that and study it and know what
Yep.
you're actually voting on.
Good idea. So
Not
I'll
voting on
hand this out
healthcare.
to everybody. Mark it up and let me know, and we'll put the propositions somewheres, so they'll see what it's gonna look like. A very good idea, Peter. And, but we do have to get this in the mail, and timelines are pretty tight, so.
What time frame you need that back?
Right now, we have to compile, and it's going to be about 8,000 residents. I think it's about 7,600 properties in town of East Fishkill. So we have to, first, the biggest part is making a mailing list. We have to go through this every year. I would say if we had it back by mid-next week.
Okay.
Mid-next week would be about as late as we can get, so. But I'll get this out to the board. Just let me know what you all think, so.
That's Wednesday, Manny.
Yeah, next Wednesday. We'll leave it next Wednesday.
No problem.
If there's any problems, I have to talk to the printer and he needs it quicker, then I'll send out an email saying, look, we can't wait till Wednesday, we'll have to do it sooner. Okay, that's that. One last thing I did want to mention tonight. Last month, I wasn't at the workshop. East Light Partners solar proposal. East Light Partners got the approval from zoning board. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes.
They got approved. They're going to be doing a solar facility off of Power Drive off Route 82 there. And they would like us to be their main purchaser, and I think by state law,
Well, 40% of the power they produce has to be
in the community.
in the community.
Yeah. So I don't know if we get the whole 40%, but they do want to partner, contract with us as their main partner. So they're going to give us a proposal, and I didn't know what the board thought about the presentation last week, or at the last workshop. Were you okay with that? I mean, they don't give us the power, they give it to the power company, and then we receive a credit on the bill. And that's basically, I think, how all these big solar arrays are going. Are you okay with that? We'll entertain, I'll get a proposal, and then we'll take a look at it.
So we will be buying energy at a lower cost, is that
I'm sorry.
We will be buying energy at a lower cost?
Well, we'll be buying it lower than what we're getting for now.
Okay.
But now, I have the question for the attorney, which is always the problem.
Bidding.
Yes. I mean, yeah, so say our annual electric bill is $130,000 a year. So this would have to go out for
Well, I think
bid.
what the difference is in that, I'm looking into it because I thought this
I
might come up.
appreciate that.
But since the Public Service Commission approves the project, there have been some modifications to the law that may allow the purchase if the power is within the municipality.
Okay.
And this would be that. And I think under their proposal, there would be at least a 5% savings of the energy costs.
Okay,
So that will be, when they give us the proposal, we'll have that all put together.
okay. I could ask them if you like, 'cause they've done several of these other places.
But in other states,
Oh, were they in other states?
yeah,
We're
other
in other
states.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Never mind.
Other states are much simpler.
Oh, okay, well, that's New York State for you. Just like Mark, when you're talking about the pension calculations, that's New York State for you. Nothing is simple, so, all right, we will be getting a proposal from them. We'll be entertaining it and see what we can do, and if you'll check into the bidding issue, it's always an issue. Okay, anything else under general discussion? Anybody have anything you'd like to say? No? Okay, very good. With that,
Just, excuse me if I might,
now,
just wanted just to
Sure.
publicly make an announcement. We're doing a tank repair at Four Corners
yes.
over in Stormville, and right now the tank is offline. We're
Right.
doing those much-needed repairs, so I just want to encourage everybody to conserve water. I know we're past the hot time of year now, but just to do their best to conserve water.
This is in
As we
Four
work on that tank.
Corners
Right.
development.
Correct.
Asking the residents to please conserve water. The tank is offline while we're doing some repairs. And how are the repairs going, by the way?
They're going well. We found some unanticipated things once we got inside the tank that now we're going to address as long as we have it online. So it's going to be, maybe another 4 weeks or so before we get it back up and
4
running.
weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little bit longer than we thought, so please, if you live in Four Corners, conserve your water, use your water wisely if you would. Okay, very good. Public service announcements.
Public
Scott.
service announcement.
Thank you. Okay, that being said, that ends the town board work session for tonight. The next town board meeting is October 26, 2017. Thank you very much.